Tough loss for the Utah Jazz. Paolo Banchero looks pretty great. The Jazz have some nice things from this game, though. Let's talk about them. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, before we get into it, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. There it is. Go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd. They will match up to $100. You go put $5 down, they will match up to $5. Up to $100. It's a free $100 if you're playing the over-unders. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to do. They have all sorts of promotions and free Fridays and things like that. So go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd. It's a lot of fun. All right. The Utah Jazz actually played pretty well tonight. I was actually pretty happy with what we saw, and we continue to see growth from these young players. The Jazz are continuing to develop and really making it a point to play these guys. And in the long run, I think that's going to be the right thing. Let's see here. So I think we're just going to talk about the Jazz today, and then let's talk a little bit big picture of a few things and a few options they have. The Jazz basically have a Utah Jazz choose your own adventure now, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Jazz do. I think we're kind of seeing that the Jazz are showing us what they're doing, and when they show you what they're doing, you gotta accept what they're saying. All right. So, anyways, let's see. Lauri Markkanen was knocking down the three, but he was not hitting his twos. He goes 6 for 15 from the field tonight. So if you look at this, he goes 2 for, what's 15 minus 7? Who wants to do quick math over the, 3, 8. So that means he was 25% on his twos tonight. For whatever reason, he cannot score inside right now. And I don't know if he's just tired from all the activity he had. Obviously the offseason with the Army didn't get a ton. He's been playing a full season now. I think this is probably one of the more longer seasons he's played. So anyways, 18 points, just 3 rebounds, 0 assists. He only had 1 turnover, and I guess if you can just get the 3-point shooting, that's great. But man, the Jazz really miss him. Being able to make a 2-pointer, 2 for 8 is just not great. It's just not. And so the Jazz needed a little more from their best player. He was the big reason. I know, before the season started, I thought the Jazz were going to make the playoffs this year. I actually thought they were going to be really good based off of what we had seen the year before. I thought we were going to see growth from Markkanen, Kessler, etc. I was excited about Keyonte, and you know what? Markkanen has kind of backtracked a little bit, and that's okay. As the Jazz improve, he'll get better, and I think there's, he's probably got some sort of injury he's working through. Who knows? It could just be kind of a little bit of a down year, but you look at this year, ironically, he's shooting 40% when it was 39% last year. So that's interesting. Does it show twos on here? He is a percentage down. Look at that, a percentage and a half down on the field goal percentage. He's making almost a full field goal less than last year, and 3 points less also. So I think that comes also from the free throw line. Look at that. He is shooting just 4.7 free throws per game this year compared to 6 last year, which was driving to the basket, getting fouled. He's not really quite doing that as much. And I know he's a little frustrated with the fouls and everything, but it's just not been quite as good. And so, it's not as bad as actually I thought. This is actually a little encouraging to see that the 3-point percentage is pretty good. This is for the year. It's going down recently at least, but you know what? He shot 4 for 7 tonight. So it's interesting, but what is disappointing is the field goal percentage is down and the amount of points. I mean, that's 3 points per game you're missing out on, which tonight in a lot of ways was the difference. I know the score says 115-107, but the Jazz were tied and had the lead in the fourth at one point. They just need a little more from Markkanen. He's their best guy. And I know that he's an off-ball player, but they just, they need him to be good, and it's just not been all that great. Gabriel, not going to lie, watching Jordan Clarkson close a basketball game in the year 2024 and watching Wemby destroy the Thunder is making me extremely depressed. Yeah, if I don't recommend watching the Wemby highlights because, I've already mourned that. In a lot of ways, guys, I've just mourned that and moved on because what are you going to, I can't cry about it. I mean, it sucks. Wemby is incredible. We talked about Wembanyama so much on this channel. And yeah, like some of the people out there saying like, wish we'd have done more. In fact, can we talk about that just for just a minute? And I know I've talked about this more. Christian House Money to Haas, $3. My man, thank you so much. Didn't see the game, worked late, boo losing. Yes, we lost. You know what, though? They played well. In all honesty, I think this was a better defensive game from the Jazz. And I think I'm just wanting more from Markkanen. 18 points. It's just like, just a little more. And I know he plays off the ball and it's tough. And we've got, there was no Walker Kessler tonight. And so that doesn't help anything. Although the Jazz were like closer tonight than they were last night against I can't even remember the Hawks. I think that's interesting. John Collins played pretty well tonight. He was just a -3, 19 points, 10 rebounds. But you know what? Overall, I mean, I know we're all down. It was just a close loss, and it was an improved team from last time. Less turnovers. In fact, let's just talk about something positive. For the game, the Jazz had just 13 turnovers, which is that is a very good number. That's like top of the league level. The best teams in the league are averaging around 13, 14 turnovers per game. The best teams that don't turn the ball over, that is. So this is really good. They didn't turn the ball over that much. And guess what? This Orlando Magic team is a good defense. And they've got really good players on it. Jalen Suggs, who hit those threes late, is a good defender. He plays hard. He defends hard. And so for them to have just 13 turnovers, that's pretty good. Sorry, guys. Anyways, Markkanen goes 6 for 15. It is nice to see the 3-point shot falling for him. That has not been completely reliable as of late. What was I was gonna talk about something. Oh, the Wembanyama thing. We needed to be. I mean, the San Antonio Spurs before the lottery, I believe they had the second worst record in the league, and they got him. So we would have had to have the second worst record in the league, right? And the Jazz did tank. Anyone who says they didn't tank enough, well, they weren't going to be. With how good of a coach that Will Hardy is, and the talent that they even had, I think it was actually pretty. I mean, they played so well last year. I mean, the thing is, and this is how I've kind of been able to mourn and get over it, is you can't just not play players. There's two reasons why they couldn't go for Wembanyama, but there are also reasons why I think going for Cooper Flagg is definitely, I mean, I think it's going to happen. I mean, I'll be surprised if they don't, to be honest, because literally everything they do is pointing in that direction. Maybe they do something else that makes me sad, but the difference between now and then is they had so many veterans on the team. How many trades did they? I mean, I walked you through it in the member-only video. You can watch it. There were so many veterans. I mean, they had Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley. They traded Pat Beverly. They had all these veterans. They were trying to trade them as fast as they could. But the thing that I appreciate about Danny Ainge, and the reason why this Jazz front office, I feel like it's going to be fine. I think they do have a chance for Flagg, and I think they're going to do it. I love, honestly, that Ryan Smith talks about doing something disruptive, and what they're doing right now is disruptive compared to what the Jazz have always done. The Jazz have never won a title, okay? So they're trying something different. But anyways, you can't go for Wembanyama. You can't just not play players. Go ask the Dallas Mavericks, who got fined $500,000 because they intentionally lost 2 games by resting Luka Doncic. I mean, that was for 2 games. Are we gonna take on a $5 million penalty when they see us just not playing players? I mean, the Jazz did it subtly, and they did it kind of the right way by, resting Markkanen, developing players, and blah, blah, blah. But they first make the trade for Pat Beverly, or I can't remember exactly the order. You can go read the article I wrote in SLC Dunk or watch the video for members. They trade Pat Beverly for THT. THT was a pretty good pickup to lose games, although he had some games at the end of the year where he freaking won the game. And these were after trading Donovan and Rudy Gobert, but they got all the value they wanted. The amount of value they got for those 2 guys was remarkable. And the thing that Danny Ainge does that I appreciate is he gets value. This isn't 2K. This isn't like going to your 2K My Season or whatever it's called and saying, hey, I'd like to trade this player for this player. Send. And then you just see if it'll happen, and then it does or whatever. It's not like 2K. You have to negotiate. Other teams are not out there to make the Jazz better. They're out there to make their own teams better. They're going to do what's best for them. Yes, it would have been nice to have traded Mike Conley sooner, but the Lakers are stupid. You know? Same reason why we got Mike Conley in the first place. The Grizzlies ownership changed. That trade was going to go out sooner. It was literally ready to go before they made the trade the season before, the offseason, if you remember. And then they leaked things. They had an ownership change. The owners were stupid and dumb because they were new and they didn't want to do it. And they leaked it. And if you don't remember, Dennis Lindsay made the comment that they were Bush League. And then they end up trading at that. I can't remember if it was the trade deadline before and then they traded for him that offseason. I think it was the offseason. I can't remember. But the initial trade for Mike Conley when it happened with the Jazz was actually going to happen sooner because the Grizzlies ownership were a bunch of morons at that point. I think it's better now. But that's the point, is like, if you want to get value for your players, you want to get a first-round pick for Mike Conley, which the Jazz did, a top 4 protected pick in 2027, which is going to be like LeBron James, 44 years old with a cane out there. And the Jazz will get a good pick from that. And I mean, if it goes to top 4 and they don't get it, then whatever. That sucks. But all signs point to the Lakers being better than bottom 4. Anthony Davis will be on that team. LeBron James will be on that team, but they'll be older. And you just kind of hope that they're bad enough for that to be like a top 10 pick, but not bottom 4 because it's protected there. But anyways, it took forever to make the Mike Conley trade happen. They make the Pat Beverly trade, bring on THT, distressed asset to get better. Well, to just get worse, really. And then if THT turns into something that everyone thought he might, then great. But he didn't. He's just been kind of disappointing. They trade Jared Vanderbilt. They trade Malik Beasley. They trade, can't remember all the other players in that trade, but they trade all those guys who were helping the Jazz win. And they get Russell Westbrook, and that I can't remember. And that's when they got the pick. And that was another move. They're trying to trade assets. But then, everyone who's like, oh, trade Markkanen. How do you trade Markkanen last year? At least pre-trade deadline. How do you even assess his value? Right? He had been a disappointing prospect through his time in Chicago and then showed some promise in Cleveland. The Jazz trade for him in the Donovan Mitchell trade, and he comes over here and he's the most improved player. How do you predict his value on the trade market? How do you even get that trade done? He had already before trade deadline exploded. They did not know that he was going to be an all-star player. Anyone here who thinks they knew Markkanen, he had his good stint of play with Finland in Eurobasket, and so everyone kind of thought, well, if he can do that in the NBA, that's great. But who predicted he'd be that good? No one, including the Jazz and including the Cavaliers. Otherwise, they would not have traded him to the Jazz, right? The Jazz would have probably had to get something less for the Knicks, right? They had no idea. So these people out here who think it's like NBA 2K, you can just trade everyone and rest everyone. Well, one, you're not taking those fines. I doubt the Jazz want that. And two, you cannot trade him unless you're getting, at least for the Ainge rules, you can't trade a player for less value than they think they're worth. And right now, the value for Lauri Markkanen is pretty huge. The fact that Donovan Mitchell trade is going to turn into Lauri Markkanen, and if they trade him this offseason, I'm not even saying they're doing that. I think they'll probably just re-sign him and rest him a lot next year. But they are probably going to, if they do trade him, probably going to get a ton back. So Donovan Mitchell could turn into like 3 or 4 more first-round picks, all for Donovan Mitchell. And so that's the Jazz valuing their assets correctly. It's not 2K, guys. There was just no way there. Like I will go to my grave with this. There was no way they were going to be a bottom 2 team last year. There was no way. The first reason is they hired a freaking rock star head coach. Will Hardy's incredible. I know the defense is not that impressive, and so I would like to see that over the next few seasons. But they don't have any defensive talent outside of Taylor Hendricks, and Chris Dunn. There's just not a lot of defensive talent on this Jazz team. I like things I see from. At times, I like seeing Markkanen's rebounding. There's times where I think Keyonte George is super underrated as a defender, but I don't think Keyonte is like this elite defender. I don't think he would say that. Maybe he can become that over time. He's a good steals guy. Tonight he had, what was it, 2 steals, 1 steal, 9 assists. I mean, he had an awesome offensive game, and he's a rookie. You got to let him. We'll see what he can become. I think he can become a solid defender, but I wouldn't call Keyonte George this lockdown defender. The best defensive talent on the Jazz is Taylor Hendricks, and he's a rookie. They don't have any defensive talent. It is what it is. So the moral of that story was, yes, it sucks. Watching Wemby be really, really good hurts my heart, but not as much anymore because it's like, if like the number 8 team, I think it was like the Wizards last year, had jumped to number 1 and gotten Wemby, then that would have broken my soul. That would have, honestly, I would have shattered into a million pieces and died. But it's not. It was the number 2 team. And if you read what happened in the room when they were drawing the numbers, they picked the Spurs like 3 times in a row. Do you guys know how the lottery balls work? By the way, anyone who says the Jazz don't have a chance to get the number 1 pick, it's bullcrap. Because guess what? They did win the number 1 pick after they were forced to trade it to the Lakers because of CBA rules back in the day. And guess who that number 1 pick is that the Jazz won that they didn't even get to pick that went to the Lakers? His name is Magic Johnson. So there's your fun fact for the night. And the fact that the Jazz got Dominique Wilkins and had to trade him for cash to keep the team in Utah. Otherwise, they'd have lost the team. So, how's that for making tonight happy? Anyways, it's bullcrap. The Jazz can win the number 1 pick. Can we stop this? Honestly, there are so many narratives out there that drive me crazy. I don't know why I get on the internet. I don't know why. I mean, honestly, I get on here and I read things on places, and I just go like, what? Like people that were talking about Wemby's knees, and that's why we shouldn't try to get Wemby. Well, tonight his knees looked pretty good to me, And people who said Chet Holmgren was too skinny and wouldn't be able to play. Well, looks pretty darn good to me. Pretty darn good to me, right? I mean, even people talking about Taylor Hendricks, oh, he's way too skinny, blah, blah. He stood up freaking Paolo Banchero tonight. I am so excited about what Taylor Hendricks can become. He is awesome. He is going to be, guys, by the way, swig of root beer. He's going to be so nice, like so nice. And he's bringing some real questions for this Jazz team in the future and what they do. So I agree, Gabriel. We can... It at least it wasn't the number 8 with us at 9, Thank heavens that it was not the number 8 that jumped to number 1, because I honestly might have died. I honestly would have died. Anyways, so does that make sense? I know maybe not a lot of people are going to watch this video because the Jazz lose, the views aren't good on losses, whatever. But for those who are here, spread that message that you can't dismantle a team and run an front office correctly and just kind of they can't. I guess you could. But then you know what? Detroit had the worst. Detroit had the worst record last year, and they ended up at 5. So everyone who talks about San Antonio and the Jazz didn't try hard enough, well, go ask Detroit how they feel right now. Because they detonated everything, hired a bad coach, and they're still in the bottom 2. And this is a bad draft year. What if they get better next year? That would be the funniest thing, is like next year when it's a good draft at the top and they just are bad again, but like not bad enough. That would be hilarious. And that might happen. But you know what? I think Utah's going for it next year. Okay. I guess that's all in that. And then, you know what? Let's just do big picture stuff now, and then we'll talk about the players a little bit, and then we'll be good. There's like a choose your own adventure right now that the Jazz have. And there's really like, is there 3? Where do I put my hands? Woo. Woo. They really have like I don't know how many options there are, but here, let's just go through it. Convey the pick. I mean, I guess win now was one of the options. That door has been shut. Did you guys read Goosebumps as a kid? The Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps. Um, I don't know if does Gen Z have Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure? Because I know me, the millennial group, Gen Y. I'm maybe. Do you guys have Choose Your Own Adventure? Let me know. But anyways, Choose Your Own Adventure. If you don't know what that was, were these books that you got at the library at your school, and you sat there and you read every scenario. And what it was is you'd read, and it would say, okay, now there's a door in front of you and then a door behind you. Which one do you choose? Go to page 32 if you open the front door. Go to page 64 if you open the other door. Well, there's like a lot of Choose Your Own Adventure for the Jazz right now. And one of them that they chose not to do was just go all in and try to win, make trades to make the team better, try to make the playoffs, blah, 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 or at least not even trade their current players. And they did. They chose not to do that. I thought the Jazz would be good enough to be in the playoffs this year. I thought, and they were obviously not. It was very apparent from the beginning of the season that they were not going to be as good as I thought they could be. Now they have some options. They've already kind of chosen to trade some players. Now that they've traded their players, we're on like page 27 of this book, and you've got multiple options on this page. One of them is you convey the pick. It's starting to look to me like the Jazz are not taking that door because, Walker Kessler didn't play tonight with an ankle. I'm guessing he's actually injured, but I watched Jordan Clarkson rest for 20 games last year. I watched Markkanen rest 9 of the final 12 with injuries. And so I don't know. I'm guessing he's got an ankle thing, but it could be that they just are going to start resting more guys and lose more games and ensure that they have a top 10 pick and keep the pick, So that's one thing that they can do this year, or they can try to convey the pick. Now, big picture, and maybe I'm doing this terribly and this doesn't make sense. There's really multiple options they can do. They can convey the pick this year, they can convey the pick next year, or they can convey the pick in 2026. It's more likely to convey in 2026. Those are really the 3 options. Actually, there's a 4th option. Okay, there's 4. This is a terrible podcast, but it's a loss. If you're here, you're incredible. There are 4 options. What is the 4th one? And this is actually something that I'm kind of like, am I allowing myself to think they could do it? Option 1 is to convey the pick this year. They're not taking that choice, it looks like, unless they're just losing and they're just not good enough, which might influence a lot of decisions, by the way. James, how do you say Worcestershire? Worcestershire. Okay, so I don't think they're taking that door. The second option, convey the pick in 2025. This offseason, maybe they go get some players. They trade picks for players, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but I could be wrong. That's option 2. 2025, you say, you know what? I don't care about Cooper Flagg. I don't care about Ace Bailey. I don't care about Dylan Harper or Jaleel Bethia or however you say their names. I don't care. I just want to make the playoffs next year and give the pick to the Thunder next year. That's option 2. Option 3 is maybe you're bottom 10 next year. Oh, thank goodness. I already gave you your love. Thank you, Christian House Money to Haas. Again, $3. Super generous, my friend. Thank you so much. Option 3, after getting a top 10 pick in 2025, the Jazz decide that they want to not just have their young players play, just their youth, and they want to bring on, they want to convey the pick in 2026 to the Thunder. And it's going to be a little harder to not convey the pick that year because it's bottom 8 protected. Now, that one's scary to me. That's the one that really does scare me because it's top 8 protected that year. To be bad enough to get it, you got to be pretty bad. I mean, look at the standings right now. Just comparing now to then. Bottom 8 means 23-36, a 39% win percentage. That's to be the 8th worst team. You've got to be in this bottom 8 to keep that pick. The interesting thing about that is that sets up option 4. Maybe you just decide, screw it, Sam Presti be danged. We are not conveying a pick to you, Sam Presti. Because guess what? After it doesn't convey in 2026, I believe it just becomes cash. And so the Jazz will have gotten rid of Derek Favors for free. And all it took was years of hand-wringing and worrying. And so that's option 4. And I'm wondering if that's an option they want to take. You know, the thing is they've got a Lauri Markkanen question. Lauri Markkanen is good enough that if they play him regularly, he is probably good enough to make sure you're in this area. Kind of like they are right now, even after this loss, even going 3 for 7 in the last 10, the Jazz are still sitting at number 11, you know, still. Now, I think trading away a lot of other veterans and letting the youth just go and bringing on reclamation projects, they can get there. They can get to the bottom 5. And then at that point, you're looking at a really nice shot. 12% or better is where I'd like to be. But man, to be bad enough in this league, you got to be pretty bad. Look how bad these guys are. I mean, that's tough to be. But what that takes is probably trading Lauri Markkanen. And that's basically option 4. And you're bringing on reclamation guys. You're bringing on, in the news right now, you have Jalen Green, who is just not being impressive with the Rockets. He's not really in their rotation. He was a top 3 pick or top 4. I can't remember. The physical gifts with him are incredible, but he's not playing well. Do you go and trade for him? And if he's amazing, then that's great. If not, if he's terrible, then he quietly helps you lose a lot of games. I don't know. He can't defend for anything. It makes me a little nervous because watch Will Hardy turn him into a good player, and then you miss out on, I don't know. It's really interesting. Those are basically like the 4 options of conveyance the Jazz have. Convey now, convey next year, convey in 2026, or don't convey at all. The don't convey at all is much harder to do because after 2 or 3 years, Keyonte George is going to be really pretty good. We're going to see Taylor Hendricks just get better and better. He has like real interesting potential with what he does. So 2026 is a really interesting year. And that's the other thing. If you don't convey the pick in 2026, then you also keep the pick swaps. What if that's going to be post Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, by the way, just so you know. Donovan Mitchell next year has his player option, and I would be shocked if he doesn't turn that down to go get a big-time contract somewhere else. Right? Like, Donovan Mitchell, I mean, honestly, it would be kind of interesting to see him go to, Jazz fans would just love it if he goes to the Lakers, who think they have a shot at him, by the way. That was one of the rumors that came out. So, I don't know. But he's probably going to, Miami or New York or something. And if they lose him and don't get anything back, because they went on a whole offseason this year with all these rumors, did not trade him. Each year he gets closer to that player option and they don't trade him, the less they're probably going to get in a trade. So, it's pretty crazy. So, that's the year that if we lose our pick to Oklahoma City and if one of those teams gets to the top 26, then Utah loses their pick swap, and that would be devastating. So honestly, though, I think the Jazz are watching that. They're going to watch what happens this offseason. I have no idea what's going to happen this offseason, guys. I really have no clue. A lot of signs are pointing at a pretty crazy offseason. In fact, let's talk about it a little bit. John Collins, we talked about him, 7 for 10 from the field. He goes 2 for 3 from 3. He had an awesome offensive night. He was great. He played really well tonight. It's a bummer that the Jazz lost. 10 rebounds, 19 points. He was really solid. Really nice to see. Keyonte George tonight. Yes, the ball wasn't falling quite as well. 41% from the field, though, isn't the worst. He goes 50% from 3. He was perfect from the free throw line. Took 7 free throws. Nice to see those free throws back up for him. 9 assists, 3 rebounds, and he had that one turnover he had 2 kind of sucky turnovers, but 9 assists to 2 turnover ratio is pretty good. So honestly, Keyonte George is just, he's going to be nice. He's a nice, the Jazz really have found their point guard. You look to the future, I think Taylor Hendricks and Keyonte George are 100% a part of this team's future. It's going to be interesting to see with this offseason with Lauri Markkanen because, he has a contract negotiation probably going to happen. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do. I assume that he will probably sign and be okay. Tony Jones has talked about he's okay with the Jazz long-term plan, but you know, who knows what happens. So it'll be interesting. I assume he'll resign. I assume, but you never know. Colin Sexton had some moments tonight. He had. This is why I never trust the turnovers on here usually, because it's just sometimes it's like based off of who the ball bounces off of. Sometimes not necessarily the bad pass. It feels like he should have had 2 or 3 where he just didn't look like he was, uh, engaged a little bit. He got better as the game went on, but man, there's a few times where it's like, what are you doing? Especially to start the game against the Hawks and this game, it was like, come on, man. But he did better as the game went on, and it was nice to see the 3-point shot falling. He also missed 4 free throws tonight. Like those matter, you know. He shouldn't be shooting less effective than Walker Kessler recently, who's shooting much better, by the way. 4 assists for Sexton with only 1 turnover. This I don't trust a little bit. I think it was a little higher. But that's what it's written down, so that's what it is, I guess. Chris Dunn. What can you say? He has been really just someone I love watching. There are some elements to his game that are hard to quantify, how they hurt the team. He's such a awesome player to watch, and he does such a good job defensively. He's sometimes a little wild and can be a little bit foul prone, but he just brings the intensity, and I love it. And so him off the bench, I think, is amazing, and I think he'll be on the team next year. Honestly, he's probably one of the top 5 most likely to be on the Jazz next year of the entire team. Jordan Clarkson was terrible again. Like, just terrible. And it's to the point where, it's hard to imagine them. Look at this, 2 for 10 from the field. He was honestly terrible last game as well. 1 for 5 from 3. He can't, the fact he made 1 is great. He cannot shoot the 3 lately. I do like the 7 assists, and there were some real highlight ones, and that's nice to see. But he scored 5 points. Oh, sorry. The shooting is just not there this year. And I think he is 100% going to get traded this offseason for something, some sort of pick. And there are elements that, you'll probably miss him in certain ways. Having that outlet, having that ball handler on the floor, having that guy that can create his own shot, those have a lot of value. Problem is he's just not shooting it it's just a really bad level. I don't know what happened here. It's crazy. You remember Clarkson hitting that mid-range floater and it seemed like it was automatic? It was crazy. So I think the Jazz will likely trade him for whatever they can this offseason, but he is most likely traded. Luka Samanic played. This was an interesting one. I know this is for the real hoops nerds out here. This one was interesting and maybe not for the reason you think, or maybe it is. I don't know. But Luka Samanic basically played backup center in this one. Yeah. Walker Kessler doesn't play, which makes me want to put on my little tinfoil hat with, what we've been talking about with Walker Kessler. I think the Jazz are 100% at this point playing the style they want to play for the future. And that means a stretch 5. It means a player at the 5 that can shoot the ball and protect the rim. That's what they want. That's what they honestly have in John Collins. He's not the level of Walker Kessler protecting the rim. Obviously, not many are, actually. Walker Kessler, great rim protector. But what John Collins brings, and Luka Samanic, is the ability to knock down a 3, which spreads the floor on a 5-out offense. And it's very clear that the Jazz really want to play that way. That's what they want to do. And they haven't really been able to do that when Kessler's on the floor. And so for Kessler to really prove himself for the future when he comes back, he's got to be dominant. He's got to be so good that it changes what the Jazz want to do, Good. I was going to bring that up, Gabriel. What do you think make of the Jazz not really being that much worse without Walker? Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I had some thoughts, and these are some thoughts that have been sitting in my head that I've been a little afraid to say, but there's a few things. I think sometimes the advanced analytics lie. I do, because some of the advanced analytics with Walker are amazing, but advanced analytics are based off of box scores. They're based off of how many blocks he made, field goal percentages when he's there. I think Walker Kessler doesn't have a very quick second jump. It's something that I watch and I look at, and maybe you guys can watch it too and let me know. He doesn't seem to get like that second block very often. He'll get the first one or he'll deter the first shot, but if the team rebounds the ball, and by the way, he hasn't been very good at like getting that rebound. He's just not been a good rebounder this year. For his size and what he did last year, it's been really disappointing. But it seems like he doesn't have that second jump. Rudy Gobert has that second jump, and it's lethal. What makes Rudy Gobert so incredible outside of just, he's an underrated athlete. Obviously, with Rudy Gobert, the length is just insane, and the size and the movement, and how, surprisingly quick he is, fleet of foot and everything. But what's really incredible with Rudy Gobert is that second jump. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? He goes up for that first block and he either deters the shot or comes down and you go right back up because that's what the offensive player is going to do. Reaction time. Yeah. Reaction time and then just that ability to get that second block on the second shot. I just don't really see it that often from him. It seems like there's a lot of times where he'll either deter the shot or block it and then they score on the second one, you know? And one thing that I think is interesting, Ryan Russillo talks about this a little bit. Blocks can be one of the most overrated stats in the league, and a lot of front offices talk about that. Like the most important stat is deterring the shot, and Walker Kessler does show up well as defensive field goal percentage. He does, so he is a good deterrent. But I sometimes wonder if it's a little inflated because he does the initial shot but not the second. And then maybe sometimes he gets a little lucky on that second one here and there, and that's enough to make the defensive field goal percentage pretty good. There's times where it's like he'll get the initial block or whatever, but he's not been a very good rebounder. So if he's deterring the first shot and not getting the rebound in their offensive rebounding, that sucks. That ruins the whole possession. It is not a good possession if you don't finish it with the rebound. And that's where I think, I talked about Lauri Markkanen rebounding. Tonight wasn't very good, but he's a good rebounder, and rebounding really does matter. Defensive rebounding is incredibly vital. It's really important. Never, ever, ever underestimate the value of a good defensive rebounder. It really matters because offensive rebounds are where teams get super efficient. It's why the Jazz were so good last year, and it's why Walker Kessler was so incredible last year was his offensive rebounding made that score percentage for the Jazz and the point per possession and all that stuff so good. And it's why they won a lot of games outside of Kelly Olynyk shooting 63% from three for the first quarter of the year. That was a big deal. And the Jazz were a big time offensive rebounding team and so on. And so Kessler's just, there's some things that make me wonder, like, are these stats lying to me? Because you watch the game and like you're saying, Christian, he is in his head. I know Steve Kerr sucks for what he did. And, Steve Kerr cost Team USA gold. He really did. He was a bad coach. He did a bad job. He did a bad job coaching Team USA. Sorry, it was bad. And, this Bobby Portis stuff over Walker Kessler was ridiculous. Bobby Portis looks like garbage this year. That was honestly so bad. It really was. There's no defending it. He was terrible. Especially when you consider how many teams play inside and you need a rim protector. And for him to not play Walker Kessler was a joke. A joke. And so I was frustrated too. And I wish that Walker Kessler would have come out of, this season and just like been with that fire to prove him wrong. But it still feels like he's still in his head about stuff. He still gets, frustrated and down. And, I understand that because I think when I was playing, and I'm sure everyone here who played basketball, when you screw up at basketball tryouts and you get first cuts and stuff, it sucks. It hurts. It's not fun. But he's an NBA big, and he really does belong in the league. Even Walker Kessler not playing particularly well is still a good NBA big. At worst, he's a high-level backup center, right? At worst. At best, he's like a defensive player of the year candidate. That's kind of his ceiling. Offensively, there's some real limitations there. But so anyways, I think he is in his head, but there comes a point too where you've just got to say, like, Walker, at a certain point, you've got to get over it. At a certain point, you've got to just tough it out, get over it, and improve. Prove him wrong. Stop thinking about the mistake you made and go out there and crush the next possession. Go out there and cram it on people. Be mean. Get a mean streak going. Stop letting people be mean to you. Be mean back. It's a league of bullies, and you're either bullying or getting bullied. It really is true in a lot of cases. And if you're getting bullied, you got to figure out how to toughen up. And a lot of times it's really true with this league. So much of it is mental, and you've got to be mentally tough. It is a grind. 82 games is a lot. Travel, all-nighters, all sorts of stuff like that. It is a grind, and it is a mental grind. And you've got teams out there with guys that are just, they're bullies. You've got to be mentally tough. And the mentally tough ones are the ones that last. The ones who are tough, mentally tough at all times. In the offseason, are you improving in a big-time way? Are you going and adding to your game? That's what I'm hoping that I see from Keyonte George this offseason is, can Keyonte George in the offseason add to his game? Can he improve his jump shot? Can he improve in all these areas and then add different elements to his game? Same thing with Walker Kessler. I'd kind of hoped that maybe he had added a different element, and not really. I mean, he has improved free throw percentage. You have to give credit to Kessler for that. His free throws have gotten much better. So that is something that's nice to see, because that makes him much more playable at the end of games. But he's got to be just mentally stronger. He just does. He's 7'1". He's an incredible shot blocker. He's got all the physical gifts in the world. Use them. Use them. Be tougher. Crush those boards. Fight, guys. You've got to be tough. You just have to. It's uncomfortable, but you got to do it. If you want to be a big-time player in the league, you just do. And I'm just waiting to see that. That's what I would like to see. I expected to see it this year, and we just haven't really seen it. It's been a pretty disappointing year. From the Steve Kerr thing to getting his shoulder or arm, his elbow injured by Domantas Sabonis in game 1, it's been a little... Yeah, it's been not great. Jordan to go best role. George needs to improve his handle. Yes, he does. And that's what I'm watching this offseason. Can he improve his handle? Can he improve his pull-up? Can he improve his catch-and-shoot threes? Become just automatic, Because I think Keyonte George has a chance to be 25-point-per-game type of guy. I think he has, 20 to 25 points per game for sure is potential there. And then you can include the passing. I mean, he has a chance to be a special offensive player. And honestly, I think a pretty good defensive player. The way he plays, he looks pretty solid. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And that's why next year, even if the Jazz lose a lot, it'll be fun to watch how they grow, how they improve, what they do. Same with Taylor Hendricks. I mean, that guy, the upside there is crazy if he can start adding some different elements to his game. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. It's why, honestly, we'll see what happens. I mean, there may be a team out there that wants Walker, and if they give the Jazz what they want, they might do it. We'll wait and see. We'll definitely talk about it, whatever happens. But this offseason, I think, is shaping up to be interesting, because I think Jordan Clarkson for sure is probably being moved, and that's based off of reporting. And then who knows? We'll see with Colin Sexton. He's played really well this year, but he was also in trade rumors during trade deadline. So we'll see what happens. Oh, guys. Let's see. Let me pull this up. The Jazz are still at 11, so let's just do a quick one. Would the Jazz convey today? No, but look, LA jumps to number 4 and gives the pick to New Orleans. That would be hilarious. I want that to happen. Number 9, Atlanta jumps to number 1. Are you kidding me? All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. I love you, All-Stars. You are incredible. I'm so happy you're on on the Hoops Nerd team. All right, there we go. Oh my gosh, Tim Robach, did we give you a... Whoa, hold the phone. Hold the phone. We got a new all-star on our team. It didn't show me. No way. Guys, we have Tim Robach. Oh my gosh. You just joined today. Tim, you're an all-star. Oh my gosh, we just got to 21. I got to remember 21, man. I was thinking about it today. What if we got to like 30 all-stars and I had to remember 30? All right, guys, I'm putting his name in the channel here. Tim Robach. What's the name? Let me know. If you're, by the way, if you're a Jazz fan and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you doing? Like and subscribe. Welcome to the channel, Tim. I hope you're watching right now. It looks like you might not be on. Maybe you joined in between shows. So, that's amazing. Tim Robach, something robot, maybe. Maybe. Hoops robot. Tim Robocop. No. Some people say Tiny Tim, but I'm thinking like Big Tim Robach. Tim Roblocked. Oh, that's pretty good. Tim the Roadblock. Tim. Oh, that's kind of fun. Roadblocked. Roblocked. Roblocked, baby. Tim Roblocked. I kind of like that. Roblocked, baby. All right, it's time to do a poll. Anyone else got row it Bach? Bach row. Tim, let's see. It's hard to think of these nicknames right on the spot. Let's see. Tim Robach, did we? It says rejoined. I wonder if you jumped levels. Because I would have remembered your, unless we gave you one for anything before. The block. Oh, I like that. The block, Tim Robach. Like new kid on the block. Or on the block in the paint. The block, Tim Robach. The ultimate Tim protector. Oh, that might be it, Gabriel. That might be it. By the way, Gabriel, do you go by Gabriel or Gabe? That might be it. Tim Protector Robach, baby. That's amazing. The Tim Protector Robach. No way. I'm not even voting. That's what I like. The Tim Protector Robach. The Tim Protector Robach. Like the rim protector, but the Tim Protector. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. All right. I'm glad we caught it. I'm glad we caught it, Tim, because you get your flowers for joining the All-Stars. The Tim Protector Robach. Boom. Good job, Gabe. That was a good one. Well done. Well done. All right, we got a new All-Star. We're up to 21. 21. All right, let's see. Let's if anyone remembers mine, 21. If you remember that, then I guess you enjoyed mine. I don't know. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars and especially our new All-Star, the Tim Protector Robrock, Nathan Butnett Burkhart, Dirty Jazz Car Wash Channel, Fly Eagles Fly Platinum Eagles, the real deal Lars Jarvin and Ryan Perry the Legend, Just Buckets JB, Baby Elliott Matson, Christian House Money to Haas, the Outlaw Jesse James Nelson, Ezekiel Racibe, the man from down under, see ya, Alexa Later, Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de Gabajo, Jordan the GOAT, Best Roll TGD, Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Patrick Kubo, The Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Good night, everyone. Good night, Lars. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Gabe. Good night, everybody. Christian. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. Good night. Good night, Moon. Good night, Stars. Good night, Hoops Nerds. I will talk to you next. Oh, $2. Christian House Money to Haas. $2 to Book Gap. You are incredible. House Money, thank you. I appreciate it. Guys, I will talk to you next time.